just as I definitely foretold in my preseason prediction of the season, we have Patriots, we have Broncos AFC Championship game here. Only surprising thing, of course, being Jared Stidham didn't step in sooner for Bo Nix. But in all seriousness, very wild matchup that Aaron Rodgers in one of his darkness retreats might not have even been able to see. So, with that said, we have some real work to get into because Jared Stidham, believe it or not, has not played a whole lot in the NFL despite being in the league for a considerable amount of time now. But we do see some notable trends with him. We see that he's all over the freaking place. And particularly in a blitzing manner, he has had years where he's been fine against the blitz. He's had years where he's been god awful. So you really don't know what you're getting on a year to year basis with Stidham. You know, it is small sample size in basically every instance, but usually there's some sort of consistency with, handling the blitz, not with Stidham. Overall, I would say he's a fine backup. He is stepping into a pretty darn good situation with Bo Nix, who's, not uplifting the offense to a tremendous degree himself, so you get a pretty good indication of how good the offense is agnostic of quarterback through that. They're 10th in passing expected points added. They have an okay ground game. It's right around average, so it's not, too much relief through that. But Bo Nix had this offense clicking in a passing manner, and Stidham has been around the league. He surely knows the offense. He's been here all year under Peyton, learning the situations that he's going to be thrust into. So, it's also nice in a sense, obviously, no niceness to the Broncos that you lose your starting quarterback so late in the year, particularly, but at least they did know going into the game, you're planning for Stidham. It's not like, he gets hurt during the game and then he has no reps with the first team. He's getting the first team reps all week. But pretty difficult situation to be thrust into because the Patriots are 7th in passing expected points added on defense. So really going to have to earn his stripes on this one. And, it's up in the air. It really is. The Patriots don't get pressure at all. They're 26th in sacks compared to the Broncos being first in not allowing sacks. So that bodes super, super nicely for Stidham. He should have time to go through his progressions. What isn't necessarily boding well for him, though, is the fact that the matchups not so favorable to him. And, the only thing he has to worry about from a pressure standpoint is Milton Williams. Milton Williams is pretty much the entire pass rush of the Patriots. He is a very good pass rusher from the interior, but he's not Aaron Donald level, so, very high standard to uphold there by saying that, but that's kind of the type of guy you need to really make a pass rush happen from the interior, basically with one guy, so it's not like that. Milton Williams is a very good pass rusher, definitely top 5 interior pass rusher in the league. He is right around 3 in pass rush productivity for PFF, and Ben Powers is 37th in pass blocking efficiency for guards, so there can be a little bit of pressure induced through that, but for the most part, this is really favorable in the pass rushing department. Garrett Bowles is going to shut down basically any edge rusher himself, and there's no real weakness on this line as a whole. McGlinchey's a good pass blocker. He can get stuff done in the run game, primarily is what he's known for, but he's a good pass blocker as well. They got their center back. It's looking up very much so for the pass protection of the Broncos, and again, the Patriots aren't going to do any favors for themselves in generating pressure to begin with. And, with the matchup being Powers being a good guard, is above average in pass protection, that being your weakness compared to Williams, again, being roughly the 3rd. I believe he was the 3rd in pass rush productivity, but I might be a little bit off. It was definitely top 5, but it is, pretty good to say the least. But the matchups for receiver, really not there. Cortland Sutton, very solid receiver, kind of run of the mill, honestly, number one receiver in this league. A guy that can get you kind of, that baseline 1,000-yard season, but, not going to do the above and beyond stuff for the most part. He'll make some great catches, not going to separate at a super high level, not this crazy athlete that is a mismatch nightmare. So, he's big. He makes a lot of catches, but a lot of them are contested. That's not great against Christian Gonzalez, who can seemingly cover anybody and really can give you some physicality. There was honestly a great play against the Texans, not a great point of reference, but he missed the jam on a press, and he still was just completely blanketing the receiver the entire route and just made a play on the ball that never had a chance to begin with. But that is something that is scary for the Broncos here, is Gonzalez is going to be about as good on any receiver as anybody in this league. And then to top it all off, Carlton Davis, really good himself. I like him a lot more than Troy Franklin, I would say, is the number 2 as far as passing options here. Franklin, known for getting deep downfield. He's 28th in average depth of target. That is very nice. But Carlton Davis, despite not having the long speed, is, prone to lock you up as well. So that is really difficult to not have, a go-to matchup that you're feeling great about. Sean Payton will do about as good as anybody, you figure, at giving you favorable matchups to work with, but nothing in the tight end front. Evan Ingram just kind of there. Bryant is okay. Again, the run game, not a strength. So Stidham is going to have to do some stuff here if the offense is going to produce at any sort of level. The Patriots do have a very good defense themselves. So, they have a far superior run game to the Broncos. In the matchup of that, the Broncos are 18th in rushing expected points, rushing success rate. The Patriots are 10th in run defense success rate, so I favor run success rate because I do think that gives you the best idea of what you're going to get. It's more sustainable than if you have like a 60-yard run that's going to skew things. It's telling you how productive are you continually. The Broncos aren't. Patriots hold it down well. So that is tough. There's not going to be a lot of stuff on the ground. But, fortunately for the Broncos, I don't know if you've heard about this, they have a very, very good defense. And when I say very good, I mean the only reason it doesn't get talked about more in my estimation is because the Seahawks and Texans have just an absolutely disgusting, filthy, outrageous defense that's like kind of all-time level. Not exactly sure where I'm placing them all time, but I'm saying, definitely in the mix for the upper echelon of any defenses ever. So that kind of masked the stuff beneath them, which is unfortunate because, again, the Broncos, most years, this could be the best defense in the league. And, arguably they were last year as well. So, they added talent in addition to that. So, Denver, the thing you really have to make sure about is that you're not letting May do any extracurriculars of sorts. You're not letting him get outside the pocket, extend plays any. He's going to find the open guy if it's there, and McDaniels does a good job of allowing him to just kind of have simplified reads for the most part, but also then May does the stuff after that if it's not there. So the Broncos being great against mobile quarterbacks really helps them beyond just doing the good things of blitzing and having great edge rushers. They're very fast at pretty much any level, so they're going to not let May get past them if they're disciplined. In the interior even, John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen, they're pretty darn athletic for big boys. So you add that on top of Benito, who has amazing get-off, Jonathan Cooper, who also has great get-off. I think I saw a stat from Next Gen Stats that was saying they had the 2 best get-offs in the entire league, which honestly, Not surprised at all with Benito. A little bit surprised with Cooper being that level, but not, unfounded. It does look ridiculous when they're getting off the ball. So that's going to be tough for May. That is really going to be tough. And then you do go through, sack numbers. Patriots are 18th in being sacked. The Broncos are number one. That's going to, really get dangerous for this Patriots offense. And the Patriots, they are a balanced team. They have a good defense, as we alluded to before, but, you know, they do like to have the offense humming at least in spurts where they can maybe group together some touchdown drives. That's going to be hard with pressure getting in seemingly, every single snap. So, another thing here that is very interesting, it's not to say that it's going to make things favor the Patriots, but it certainly is a swing point, I believe. The average depth of target. May is second in the league for ADOT. The Broncos allow the second deepest average depth of target as a defense. So, Patriots want to go deep. They don't really, again, have like a traditional deep threat burner receiver, but the Broncos kind of invite that. And, it's going to be amazing to see Booty on PS2, Patrick Surtain. That's going to be happening a lot. You're going to see a lot of digs on Surtain. It's going to be deep downfield a lot as well. The Patriots do like to get, the deep chunk plays. They can have the more methodical, sort of Tom Brady-esque drives where it's a lot of short game, but they are going to try you deep, and the Broncos are kind of inviting it as well. They're going to blitz, so they're not going to have a lot of guys deep, but they're also just going to trust in any sort of assignment Surtain and to a degree Moss getting deep downfield as well. The pressure of this is just pretty much unilaterally Denver. Patriots don't have a bad offensive line, not saying that, but Will Campbell got really abused by Will Anderson. It was a will on will crime, which, Nick Benito, not quite Will Anderson, but, not a real reprieve there. So I think that can get, out of hand. I do like Morgan Moses on Jonathan Cooper. I think Morgan Moses is continually underrated, a very sound tackle that, doesn't really allow anything super free. He is really good when he's healthy. The issue just has mainly been that he hasn't been healthy over the years. Then, Allen on the interior, that's a big advantage over Wilson. We're talking second best pass rushing productivity interior versus Wilson, who's 46th. In pass blocking, that's not good. Bradbury as a center, 16th in the league, so right around average for a center. Going against John Franklin Myers, 10th for interior pressure. That's not good. This is really shaping up to be, May, you got to get rid of that ball as soon as you're getting it. If not, somebody's going to tackle you. So it is very stressful for that. The, complete opposite, seemingly, of how I was saying the Patriots don't get after you. They don't have, a good offensive line. It's fine. And, they're going against just an absolute monstrous, demonic defensive line that is just going to make things so hard on me. Really trial by fire for me here, going from, Texans to the Broncos. That's about as good as you're going to see for, any sort of matchup defensively for a young quarterback, no less. So that's really tough. There is a little bit of an angle where his skill positions, I don't really like that term, but that's conventionally what it's known as. Guys, Stephon Diggs really playing at a premier level this year. Could he, win his matchup against Surtain? Certainly. Surtain makes you earn it for sure. Diggs is 12th in yards per route run. Surtain is 28th in PFF coverage. Not the most reliable to go off of a 1 year sample at corner because it is so volatile, but, Diggs being 12th, that gets you in the conversation versus just about anybody. McMillan in the slot is having an amazing year this year. He's been kind of whatever through the years, but elite this year. He's 7th in PFF coverage. The main thing, though, that is going to favor them is Moss can be a bit of a weakness. I do like, the upside of him or Barron, but it is not always there week to week. So Booty being 39th in yards per route run against Moss, that is, favorable. Moss is about an average cornerback. So, it's not to say then that he is just awful or whatever, but can be picked apart from time to time, can get a little grabby with penalties. Henry has a tight end. I favor him. He's about an average tight end for what it's worth, but I favor him over Singleton and Locke as sort of matchups. Singleton obviously going to be on him a lot at linebacker, but Locke is, a safety that can be involved with some tight end play. So there are some things here, even with there being some major advantages for the Broncos, there are some things here that make you think the Patriots can win their matchups. And for that reason, I do definitely think the Patriots take it. It's not the most, hot take. I'm not claiming that it is. They are pretty hefty favorites here, talking about almost a touchdown level spread favorite on the road, no less. Bo Nix being out really does stink in that regard. It's not a free win. I'm not going to say that. It's not like the Patriots just have to show up and they win. But I think if they do the appropriate matchup hunting and, get some success against Surtain, but mainly just go after everybody but him, I think they're going to have some success on offense. And I do think the Broncos are just really going to struggle for anything because this offense is good, but it wasn't even elite with Nix. So you add in, the volatility of a backup quarterback that hasn't really played too much over the years. And, the Patriots do blitz a fair amount in all actuality. The Broncos blitz at, a super high level. For what it's worth, too, the Patriots are going to really struggle on the ground. I should mention they're 25th in rushing success rate versus 7th for the Broncos defense. So that is going to really hold them back. I don't believe I mentioned that. But, blitz wise, it is, it's pretty hefty in favor of the blitzing for either matchup here, where 10th for the Patriots, 10th most on defense, 6th most for Broncos. They're known for their blitzing with Vance Joseph, but, with the up and downness of Stidham, maybe you do get the high end, but I'm definitely trusting Drake May in this one over Stidham. I think the rest of the teams are pretty close, but I do also kind of favor the matchups for the Patriots to begin with. Those are my thoughts on Broncos Patriots. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section. Be sure to like or rate and subscribe or follow, depending on if you're watching on YouTube or podcast form. Thank you for watching, and be sure to consider yourself a friend.